Hello and welcome to another episode of Minecraft. As you can probably tell from my inventory, things have changed in this series. So after I built this starter house and thought about it a little bit more, I realized that what I really want to do is just build and not worry about gathering materials or mining or dealing with mobs, anything like that. I just want to build. So I decided that for this series, I'm just going to build in creative and take you guys along on the builds that I do. If you're still interested in watching a survival series, my friend Kim and I are doing a survival series, so go watch those videos if you're not interested in just creative building. But in this series, I'm now just going to be building in this world, exploring biomes of plenty and using it to its full potential rather than waiting around trying to gather materials. I can just use all the really cool materials that the mods add and just have fun with it. So today I think I'm going to work on something in the Enchanted Forest. So I was coming up with a list of things that I want to build, and there's some things that I definitely want in the lavender field, there's some that I definitely want over on the plains here, and there's a couple I want to do in the Enchanted Forest. So I'm going to start with one of those ones. The first thing I'm going to do is just clear some space, and I think I want to go fairly far into the forest here. I don't want to be along the edge. I'd rather have any of the builds in here be well into the forest. Let's find a good area. So I think I'm going to start with this area where I previously cleared the silverwood tree. So let me quickly clear out this area, fill in this little divot here, and do a little tiny bit of terraforming, and I will be back to tell you and show you what I'm planning on building today. Actually, while I clear this area, I just want to talk about why I decided to just go into creative a little bit more. So I've been playing Minecraft for a while, and I play it on and off. Lately, I've been playing with friends, and we've had a survival server, modded survival server, for quite a while actually, and it's been a lot of fun, but because of being in that survival server, I kind of got my fill of gathering resources and whatnot and just want to build. And the other thing too is I have a very limited amount of time for playing games, and I want to make sure that when I am playing games, I'm doing what I want to do and having a lot of fun. And if that means playing around in creative and filming it, then that's what I'm going to do. I just, I want to make sure that it's fun to watch, and part of that is going to be me making sure I'm having fun playing the game. But yeah, essentially my reasoning behind it is I just don't have a ton of time to play games anymore, so when I am playing them, I want to be doing what I want to do and enjoying myself. Alright, so that's the area pretty much cleared that I want to build in. What I'm going to be working on is a magical tower of some sort. I was thinking possibly a gigantic tree tower, so it's like this tower was built into a tree. So yeah, that's, I think, what I'm gonna go with. And then around the tower, I would really like to have a druid grove somewhere close to here, probably this direction. So I'm gonna keep that in mind when building the tower. I think I would want it the door facing wherever the Druid Grove is going to be. But let's search for some materials first. Okay, now that that is all cleared out, I can lay the base for this tower. I know I want it to be circular, and I would like the center to be here. So that will eventually be the doorway. And then how wide do I want it? Alright, so there's, I think, my rough base. It's going to be quite large, but I think that's okay. And I'm pretty sure it is symmetrical. It's just the variance in the land that's making it look lopsided, but yeah, that should be pretty good. I'm going to make it all the same height all the way around, just to make sure that it's not off center. And then I'll decide how tall it needs to be. And for the inside, I'm not worried about, you know, the different terrain all along the outside, but on the inside, I will make sure that, you know, one floor is flat, and then there'll probably be a basement area or something like that, just to make it all the same level all the way around, despite the terrain outside. But I don't want to completely flatten the ground outside, because, you know, this is supposed to look like this giant tree grown out of the ground that people have come along and made into this magical tower. So I want it to look like it's a part of this landscape, not that it was built here. And if you make the terrain perfectly flat, yet it's nice and easy to build on, but it's harder, at least for me, to blend it into the surroundings. Okay, now that it's all the same height, we should see that it looks symmetrical when we go up, and it does. It looks good. Now, to figure out how high this should be. So I think I want it slightly higher than the treetops here, so let's bring this point right up. And how does that look for height? Yes, I think that's good for height. So I don't actually want it to be straight up all the way, but I want it to kind of, you know, like a regular tree, and like you see with these dynamic trees, wider at the bottom, but then it thins as you get to the top, and then the leaves are coming out from there. So what I'm going to do is, up at the top point that I've marked, I'm just going to do a line across, just so that I know when I get to this line, that's as tall as I wanted it to be. There we go. That should be good, and that I can take down once I have the base of the tree. So I'm going to keep in mind that my first level is going to start here. I want each level or floor in the tower to have at least 4 blocks of height on the inside. which means for the first part of this tree, I'm going to build up 5 from here and then go around. So all of these areas here will all match at the door. This will be a floor. Once I know what I'm doing with the flooring, I'll make sure that this is all flat, and then underneath, like I said, will probably be a basement slash storage area. So I'll go around, I'll add all these blocks, and then probably go up one more at this thickness and start bringing it in either 1 by 1 or 2 by 2. It all depends on how it looks from the outside. So there's the first level all complete. So now I'm going to put another 5 blocks on top of here at this width, and then we can start trying to get it to come in a little bit thinner, and it should start to come together fairly soon and start to look like what I want it to look like. I am going to want to put windows and things in, but I'm going to wait until I have all of the interior in place before doing that, just so I know where I want the windows, but it's easy enough to punch them out from the inside. So I'm also going to make sure that I put a marker where the floor is going to be so that I can easily see it. Because this wood pattern is very busy, it's hard to see each block to count them. So if I have another visual reminder of where I'm ending each floor, it'll be a lot easier. Okay, so the second floor is done. I've moved my floor markers over to the back wall because I had an idea of when you come in the front, you can see all the floors stretching up. So I don't think I want there to be floor right here and possibly to this point. So I'm gonna keep that in mind as I continue building. But now we can start bringing the tower in 1 step or 2. I'm thinking 1, that might look a little bit smoother, so I'm just going to go around the edge where I'm going to bring it in with these slabs, just so I have a spot to build on. I can always remove them if I need to make it look better on the inside, but for now, just to make it easier while building, I want to have the slabs here. Okay, so now I'm going to continue building this up, and I will check back in once I have this floor built, or possibly the next 2 floors. But yeah, check back in because it's just a whole lot of placing wood. Okay, so I've built the step in for this level, and I think instead of doing 2 floors per width, I'm going to move to doing just 1 because we're starting to get really close to my cutoff point. I'm okay with going a little bit over, but I want to make sure that there's enough room to build out some branches and the leaves and make it all look nice. So I'm going to start just moving it in after each floor instead of doing 2 floors. I still think it'll look really good. I just want it to look nice at the top. I don't want it to look too wide and then look like it's just been chopped off and not nice and natural, like especially compared to all the dynamic trees around. With the dynamic trees around, I want to make sure that If I'm building a custom tree, it looks really good because the dynamic trees already look really nice. Okay, I think this is as tall as I want my tower to go. I was just below the point of the marker that I had put up here for height, so I think this is as tall as I'm going to make it. My next step is going to be adding some branches to the upper, probably for sure this top layer, maybe the second layer as well up here, and just creating a nice shape to then build the leaves off of. So I want to keep in mind the shape that this tree had when I spawned it in. But first I'm just going to put out a marker of where I want branches to be. I want to make sure that I have branches coming out of each side, but I'm going to vary the level of the branches and where they're coming out of the tree just for a little bit of, you know, to make it look a little bit more natural. Trees don't stick their branches out at all the same heights and all the same spots on each side, so I want to keep that in mind as I'm building this. So those are going to be our main branches coming out. I'm just going to add some more to these branches so they stick out just a little bit more. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to start detailing the branches out. So for example, I'll do one side while recording and then I'll go and do the other sides. It's a lot of stepping back to look at it and then looking at it again. So for example, this branch here, I want it to come up a little bit and come back out again. And it doesn't need to be the full width that I had it. It'll come out like that. And then maybe there's going to be a spot over here that's coming out. And then maybe starting to come out this way and coming up. Like so. And maybe we'll add just a little bit of thickness to the branch here where it first starts to branch out. Okay, and then we're going to take from this side again and we're going to go up and out this way, and then up some more. And then closer to the tree we'll have a couple branches coming out. And again, I want to make sure that I'm bringing the branches up as well. I don't just want them coming out of the tree, I want them going up so that I can add a whole bunch of leaves here. And I'll even put some branches into the trunk here, and these ones will come in towards the tree. For the roof of this, I'm thinking of putting in a bunch of glass and having some spots showing through the leaves. So I want to make sure that there's going to be branches coming in towards the center of the tree as well. And then even on the end of my branches, maybe adding some variation coming back towards the tree. Up a little bit more. And that's going to be pretty much it all the way around. So I'm just going to keep doing that. The other thing that I recently saw somebody do, oops, is using fence as the tips of branches. So making it look like the branch is spindling off a little bit more, which I thought was really cool, and I might end up doing that more towards the bottom of the tree. But adding some up here adds a little bit more texture, a little bit more variety. I mostly saw this done with smaller trees, but I think it could definitely work with a large tree like this. Yeah, so I'm going to just go add all my branches, and then I'll show you where I'm at once the branches are in, and then we can start adding the leaves, and from there it's pretty easy. So now that all the branches are in, you can kind of see the basic shape that the leaves are going to form. I've added some little branches further down the tree just to put a little bit of leaves around there, but yeah, so this is going to be our basic shape for the leaves, and essentially what I do is I just kind of follow the shapes that I've made and make sure that there's leaves on each end, make sure that there's leaves filling in the space between. It doesn't have to be solid with leaves, but at least making sure that the ends are capped off with leaves, I find really helps make it look believable as a tree. I've never built with the fences before, so we'll see how those look once I get the leaves on, but I'm really excited about the basic shape that this tree has, and I will check in periodically as I'm placing leaves. But yeah, I think it's coming together really nicely. So for starting out the leaves, I'll do it similar to the branches. I'll do this side and then go ahead and do all of the other ones off camera. But I'll start with this little one here. So what I mean by the end of the leaves being covered is I usually go out in a cross shape from the middle of the end of the branch, fill it in. I'll usually put one on top, and then I fill in along the bottom as well. This is kind of an experiment for me too with these fence posts as I'm filming it. And I want to make sure as I'm going down, I'm expanding the leaves outwards. So, like this. It doesn't have to be perfectly symmetrical, but I usually start with it symmetrical and then add from there, just so that I know that I have all the sides covered. We'll put one more here, and then for these I might add some hanging branch, or not hanging branches, but hanging leaves. Just randomly. And that's pretty much it. So for example, with one of the larger ones, let's say this one, because this is closer to what I would normally be working with. I make sure there's a leaf on top. I fill in my cross shape and bring it out a little bit. And then I fill the top in a little bit more. And I just keep bulking out the leaves from that basic shape. Again, keeping in mind when I go underneath of it, I want to make it come out wider on the underneath. Okay. And starting with a fairly symmetrical shape just to make it easy to repeat. But as I go around the tree, I might take some leaves away or add some in random spots. But I want to make sure to start with the same shape, that way I know that I'm filling everything in properly. I cover up most of the branches usually, and I start at the top of the tree and work my way down. My recording cut me off, so I'm not sure where it ended there, but usually I'd go from the top to the bottom. I would usually leave these side branches for last, but I thought it would be a good example to do one of the side branches since it's smaller and easier to show. But yeah, I just try and cover as much of the branch as I think would look nice. Again, working from the top to the bottom usually and filling in as I go. This is why I usually prefer to build trees in creative mode, because I can fly around the tree and see where it needs more leaves, where it doesn't need any more. And I also don't have to make a whole bunch of dirt scaffolding. It's not too bad with smaller custom trees, but with something this large, there's no way I would try and attempt this in survival mode. It just would not work very well. Yeah, so I'm essentially going to do that with the end of each branch, and then once the end of each branch is done, I'm going to start connecting the branches together. So I'm going to make sure that these leaves connect into this branch and this one and all along the outside, and then I'll work towards the center, making it look nice and full up here, and fill in all of these little branches that I have along the base of the tree. Yeah, so I will come back to you guys once I have all of the outer branches filled in, and then we can work on just filling in the center of the tree. Alright, so as you can see, all of the ends of the branches have leaves on them. I also put some of the sea lanterns inside just to light it up a bit and give it more of a magical look. So my next step is filling in the spaces between the branches with leaves. Where I know there's a spot I started to do this. Yeah, over here. So you can kind of see over here how I'm starting to connect them all. And if I take the leaves like this and connect it in, and then just continue doing that all the way around the tree, they'll be nice and full and connected at the top. Yeah, and I mean, if you ever see spots like here, might need another branch, so I might fill a branch in. It all depends on how it looks once the leaves are in. And then the top, like I said, I want to figure out some way that you can see up through the tree from inside it, so I'm not entirely sure what I'm going to do with the top here yet. But I'm just going to play around, adding more leaves around, filling in all of the branches, making sure they're all connected. And I'll see how that goes. So I'm going to go ahead and start doing that. And then I'll check back in once I know what I'm doing with this domed part of the tree here. Okay, the top of the tree is all complete. I think it looks pretty good. It could be a little fuller at the top, but honestly, you can't see it at all from the bottom, so I think that's okay. I was doing some thinking on what I would do for this dome, and I think I'm going to use this dull green glass and just fill it in with that. I decided I don't want it to be completely open to the canopy. I want it to actually be filled in, so that's what we're gonna do. We're just gonna fill it all in, and I think it'll look really cool from down below. Let's see. Yeah, because you can't really see the green glass against the leaves, but it still looks really cool. And it just adds a little bit of something rather than just being open air. Okay, there's the top all filled in. I think it looks really cool. Now my next step is going to be filling in the floors. I turned it to peaceful mode so that mobs can't spawn in here, but I'm going to clear out this grass, put down the planks, and then put the wood slabs across for each floor. And then I'll come back and we can figure out the stairs or whatever we're going to be using to get up to the top. There's also levitators in this which I might use, but for now, let's just get the floors in and figure that out once we know how much room we have. All right, the floors are done, and by the floors I mean specifically the floor. Instead of using the sacred oak planks, I went ahead and used the green heartwood slabs. I just thought it added a little bit more contrast. As you can see by the trim in the corners, it looks really busy with the sacred oak slabs. So I went ahead and just used the green heartwood. I think it matches pretty good to the green in the logs. It's the closest match I could find anyway. But yeah, each floor is done, so when you walk in, I wanted it to be that you could see up through the tree from any floor. So I made sure it was nice and open on the first floor here. And then we head up these steps, and then we have levitators to get up the rest of the way. So up we go all the way to the top of the tree. And then from the top you can look down and see the other floors. So I thought that was really cool. From the top it kind of looks endless, which is really nice. But yeah, so let's go back down and start on the ground floor, and I'll talk you guys through what I'm thinking of doing for the decoration inside. So because this is a magic tower, I wanted to use a lot of the Thaumcraft stuff to make it look like a magic tower. I've put signs here of what I want each floor to be, so the ground floor is simply going to be a lounge. We're going to have these tables, these stairs are going to act as chairs. For some decorative lighting, we're going to have the green knitor and maybe some candles. And I put the slabs in here to use for more shelving. I'm also thinking I might put carpet down here, but I'll have to see once I have all of this placed if carpet would look nice just throughout. I think it might add a nice cozy feel to the ground floor. Then we move up to the first floor, and the first floor is going to be the general study area. So lots of books, some pedestals with enchanted books on them, maybe some regular books on them as well. Some more tables, and then the light blue knitor for some decorative lighting. So that's what this floor is going to be. And then we go up to the second floor. We're going to have plant studies up here. So I picked out a bunch of really cool looking plants, some terrariums, again the wood tables, the candles, and then this floor is going to have the lime fire for decorative lighting. I also need to get a couple flower pots. I don't know what all in this will fit in the flower pots. I know that the biomes of plenty flowers won't go in pots, as well as the vishrooms, but I'm thinking the saplings might go into pots. And then for the others, I might put them on pedestals or just have them on like grass blocks or whatever block they need to grow on. And then we're coming up to the third floor, which is going to be crystal studies. So we have, again, a bunch of pedestals, a bunch of tables. This one's going to have the white fire as decorative lighting, and then a whole bunch of crystals. So I'm going to have the crystals floating on the pedestals. These ones will actually grow, so what I might do with these ones is put some stone down and put the crystals directly on the stone. And then we come up to the fourth floor, which is going to be Essentia Studies. So I have some warded jars, I have grey knitor for the decorative flames, some pedestals, some tables, and then a whole bunch of the Essentia. I don't actually know how to put it into the jars. I haven't really played with Thaumcraft, but hopefully I can get it into the jars, and if not, I'll just have it floating on the pedestals. So for the fifth floor, we're going to do armors and weapon study. So we have all of the Thaumcraft armor We're going to use orange fire for the decorative pieces for here, and then a whole bunch of the Thaumcraft tools. Again, we have pedestals, but this time we have armor stands and item frames as well. Because this floor is getting a little bit smaller, I want to make sure that there's room to display everything, so a lot of stuff might go in frames on the wall. And for the final floor, I thought it would be really cool to have a Crimson Cult Studies. So we have all the Crimson Cult stuff, as well as the Red Nator and armor stands and pedestals as well. I don't know if I'll use the pedestal, maybe for displaying the book, but we'll see. And yeah, that's about it. So what I'm going to do is get started on decorating each floor, and after I do each floor, I will check in. If I decorate while filming, this footage will be extremely long because it takes a while for me to decorate. But yeah, so for what I'm thinking for the lounge, I'll just quickly do a little bit of what I'm thinking is we'll put tables here. I might put windows in. That might be a good idea. Alright, so now we have the lounge complete. Let me just get rid of everything that's in my inventory. I don't need it anymore. But yeah, that's the lounge all done. I think it turned out really cool. I put these trapdoors with leaves in them to kind of look like overgrown flowers. We have all the tables and chairs. We've got some mushrooms in pots on the wall. And the carpet leading deeper into the lounge area. We've got some seats underneath the stairs. And a bunch more seats here with more overgrown flowers and more mushrooms. I think it turned out super cute down here, and I really, really do like how it turned out. Yeah, I'm excited to keep doing the rest of the tower. But this area of it is super cute. I think it does the job of being inviting, and we're going to do the general study area. So again, using the books, the pedestals, wood tables, and then we're changing the fire to the light blue Nator. I thought it would be cool if each floor could have its own fire, just as a little bit of an accent. So I'm gonna get started on this floor now, decorating it, making it look all neat, and soon enough we'll have the whole tower completed. The library, or the general study area, is complete. I think this turned out so cool. We've got some books floating on pedestals all around, the bookshelves, the tables that people could study at, and when you come along, even more books floating on the pedestals. Along this walkway here, some more bookshelves and more study areas. I think this turned out super cool. I love the bookshelves with the fire inside of them. I think that just adds a very neat touch to it, and I really, really like how this turned out. One of my favorite things to build is libraries in Minecraft, even in just normal survival. And I have a plan for a bigger library build, but I think this is the perfect magical library for inside the tower. And yeah, time to move up a floor. We're going to plant studies. Okay, the plant studies floor is complete. So I have a bunch of the plants floating on pedestals. I thought about putting them on their own blocks so that you could see them, but there's not enough room up here to make that look nice. I would want to border the blocks by upside down stairs or slabs, and there's just not enough room up here to be able to do that nicely. But we also have some wooden study tables in the middle of the pedestals. almost like somebody could stand here studying each plant and then writing down what they're learning. And at the windows, we have more tables and slabs. On this one, we've got some flower pots with the magic tree and the silverwood tree in it. And when you come over to this side, we've got more terrariums. These are like the mushroom themed ones. We have some over here, which are the fern themed ones. And then along this side as well, we have the other dimension ones. So Ender Terrarium, Nether Terrarium, and then the Ominous Terrarium. I think this plant study area turned out pretty neat. There's probably a little more that I could do to it, a little bit more decoration if I had more room, but with the room I've got, I think it looks pretty good. One thing I was thinking of doing is putting leaves trailing off the railing. That might look really neat. Yeah, there we go. That looks alright, I think. Could look better. I wish there was chains in this, but that's okay. And then we can just have... I think just the one is fine. There's not really room for another, but I think with that, that's the plant floor done. Now we get to move up to the Crystal Studies floor. And the Crystal Studies floor is complete. So when you come up, the first thing is in the window here, there are some tables with the white fire on them and a pedestal with a crystal. Along this side, we have some stone with each crystal that's able to grow on it, along with a table in the middle and some slabs to make it look more like this is a research area. More crystals floating as you walk around underneath each window. More tables and more of the decorative fire throughout. And coming back to this side, we have 3 more growing crystals with a research table. And this turned out pretty good. Not entirely how I pictured. Similar to with the flowers, when I make things like this where I'm putting a material on what it naturally grows on, I like to be able to make it so you can't really see this. So I would usually make it where you can't see the stone, but there's no room to do that up here because I'm working with such a limited space. I still think it looks really cool though. Now, if we go to the next floor, the 4th floor, and this is the one that I'm not sure how I'm going to achieve at all, but it's the Essentia Study. The Essentia floor is complete. When you first come up, there's wooden tables with some of the gray fire on them, and warded jars with different types of Essentia. And that repeats on each side for each window. And when we come back around, we have 2 brains in jars floating here. I wish I could put a little bit more up here, but again, as I get further up in the tower, there's less and less space, so this is fine, this works. It's nice and simple, and you know, it's an area that people could be studying each of these different Essentia, and I do like how it turned out. So for our second to last floor, if I can figure out the levitator, there we go. So for our second to last floor, we're going to do the armor and weapons studies. Now we're done, the armor and weapons area. So when you first get up here, we have a table with some of the orange fire floating on it, and some armor stands. From what I can tell in the Thaumcraft page, I'm assuming this armor is more the beginning type armor, so we've put all of that up in the first area here. Then along this side we have some weapons floating on pedestals, and we get to the void armors along the back. And along this side we have the tools floating. So again, a very, very small and simple area. As we get higher, the floors get smaller and smaller to work with. But I think this still turned out pretty cool, and I made sure to still have the tables throughout because this is a study space, so I want to make sure that there's space for people to stand and study what they're seeing here at each side of the tower. And we've finally reached the final floor, the Crimson Cult study area. And I think that's pretty much it for this floor. It's super small, so it was super quick to put together. But we have the Crimson Cult study space. So we've got their books floating on the pedestals, the banners along the walls, and then along the back here, each of the different armor sets. I think that's about it for the whole tower. So let's go down to the bottom floor, and I think it will look really cool, all completed. You can't really see from the bottom what each floor is, but I think that's okay. I think it's like a little bit of a mystery of what you're studying in here. If we go the first floor, we have the general study space with all of the books. The second floor is our plant studies. The third floor is the crystal studies, and the crystals are now starting to grow and spread, which is really cool. I'm really liking how they're doing. We then have Essentia studies, our armor and weapons studies, and finally the Crimson Cult studies. Very cool, lots of really neat stuff, and that makes the tower complete. So we've got the giant tree outside, and I really love how when you can get a view back at it, you can see through the windows and see the different things that are being studied. I think that's really neat. But that marks the end of this video. I hope you enjoyed watching me put together this magical study tower, this huge custom tree. It was definitely bigger than anything I've really tried to accomplish before, and I'm really, really happy with how it turned out, especially with all of the floors we now have in this amazing tower. So again, thank you for watching, and I hope that you stick around to see the next big build we're going to be accomplishing. In the meantime, off camera, I'm going to do some decorating of the outside of this tower, but yeah, I hope you enjoyed. I really did enjoy building this, even though it took so long to put all this together and to decorate all the floors. I think it was worth it.